right, good morning everyone.
Good morning.
So I'm just wondering, how many people here would like to be different in some way? Either different in the way you act or react, some difference in your lives? Most everybody does. I've been hanging out with humans for a long time, and here's the thing, it has been my observation that just about everybody wants to be different, but nobody wants to change. And there's the dilemma right there, because that's how you get to be different. So for instance, let's say somebody's kind of shy, and they'd like to be more outgoing. And a friend gives them a piece of advice on what you have to do, just get out there. And talk to people and engage in conversations. And often when you get advice like that, you'll react by saying something like, well, no, I couldn't do that. That's just not me. But that's what change is. It's becoming not me the way I am now, me as I want to be. The other me, the new me. That's how you get to do it, by just becoming not me. Now the theme for this month is spiritual living through transformation and evolution. And what those two things have in common is they're both about some kind of change. So I'm going to talk about those a little bit. Transformation. When I saw the word transformation, for some reason I go to the roots of the word, and those roots are both Latin, trans and form, and I wondered, what would they be like in Greek? And trans becomes meta, and form is morphos, and so it becomes metamorphosis. Now somewhere around when we were, I don't know, 4th grade, 5th grade, we were taught in biology that there are two examples of metamorphosis that the natural world gives us. One is that of the caterpillar to the butterfly. And that is a paradigm that is often used for spiritual transformation. But the thing about the caterpillar to the butterfly is it's a horrendous process that this creature goes through. It has to spin this cocoon so it's not in touch with the rest of the world, and then what happens is its insides actually dissolve. It's more or less unmade as a caterpillar and then remade as a butterfly, and then it has to struggle to get out of the cocoon. And that's a lot of work. That's a lot of pain and to go through. And of course, if that's what you think you have to go through, yeah, that's why I understand why people don't want to change. But there's another example of metamorphosis that we all learned back in 4th or 5th grade, and that is of the tadpole becoming a frog. And if you think about it, a tadpole starts off as essentially like a little being with eyes and a mouth on one end and a tail on the other. And after just a few weeks, maybe a month or so, you got yourself a frog instead. But that process is, while it is as remarkable a change as the caterpillar to butterfly. I mean, the tadpole lives in the water, breathes water. If you took it out of the water, it would die just like a fish, but a frog lives on the land or the water. It's got legs, it's got a very distinct head, it's got lungs, which the tadpole didn't have. But from one day to the next, that's a very imperceptible change. You more or less have to look with a magnifying glass to see any difference and measure, oh, the tail's a little shorter, or there's something to see bumps that will end up being legs. From one day to the next, it's a very gradual, very imperceptible change. And so if we made that our paradigm, I think we'd be a lot more comfortable with it. And the other word we have is evolution. And my definition of biological evolution is this. It is cumulative change, that is change from one day to another, change building on change, cumulative change brought about by the dual mechanism of variation and selection. So traits are very randomly and then selected for by the environment. Now the thing about evolution, the way a biologist would define it this way, is that it actually has no goal. There's no forward motion. It's not like the ancestors of giraffes decided, yeah, I want my descendants to have very long necks. It just sort of happened that way. It's not like the old world monkeys had this goal in mind of having their descendants be gorillas and chimpanzees and telemarketers. It's not like that. They just sort of happen that way because of the variations and then being selected for by the environment that was around them. So, speaking of environment, this is a great segue. This Saturday, yesterday, was Earth Day. And I've attended some of the Sunday messages where there was an emphasis on Earth Day, and it's kind of tricky. It's kind of tricky to do an Earth Day message here. Not because the issues involved are at odds at all with our philosophy, but because some of the attitudes that are expressed don't seem to jive. Sometimes the attitudes are those of guilt or blame. Look what you did to the environment. Shame on you. Kind of scolding that takes place, and that's not what we do here. Also, a lot of the message is about limited resources, but we talk about an unlimited source. How do we reconcile those two ideas to have a consistent message? And a lot of times people express their concerns about the environment, but concern is really just another word for worry. And we don't do worry here. So to do an Earth Day type of message is kind of tricky up here. To reconcile this notion, okay, we think in terms of the resources we have now as being limited, but we know that there is an unlimited source in back of all of it. And yes, there may be some impact that we've had in the environment, but there's no need to blame people for it. And when Reverend Bonnie was up here at the beginning of the month, she had an encounter about the environment. It was exactly like that. She realized that she was reacting in a certain way that was not in accord with the principles. And so she looked at the woman in the mirror and realized that she had to make some changes in the way she was responding and reacting to be different, which means to change the way she was reacting. Now, one thing to notice about those biological examples, whether evolution or metamorphosis, transformation, there's really no choice involved in nature. When a tadpole becomes a frog or a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, it didn't choose to do that. It's programmed in. It's an automatic process that happens. Tadpole may say, yeah, no, I'm not going to be a frog. That's just not me. Walking around on legs, what are those about? Jeez, I just want to swim around and eat tiny things, not bugs. Doesn't have a choice. And in evolution, again, there's no real choice involved. As I say, the old world monkeys didn't choose to have descendants that are going to be gorillas or politicians or anything. It just happened that way. But when we speak about it metaphorically, as we do here, spiritual living through transformation and evolution, then we can have a choice. Now, most of the changes that we've gone through in our lives are more gradual and automatic and without choice, just the way they are for the tadpole to the frog. When you were 5 years old, your body was completely different. What you were thinking about was different. What you were interested in was different from the way it is now. But there was no dramatic change for the most part in any of those things. From one day to the next, from Monday to Tuesday, your body was about the same. Most of the things you thought on Monday, you thought on Tuesday. Most of the things you wanted on Monday, you wanted on Tuesday. But over time, those things changed, and as I say, mostly automatically, mostly just by either some things were programmed in, and some things were just a response to the environment. But some things we can choose. We can choose how we're going to be different, right? As we said at the beginning, everybody here wanted to be different in some way. How to get to that? Now, when I was preparing for this message, I did a visioning for it. And I don't know how many of you have been through the visioning process. I won't describe it in detail here, but essentially you ask questions and you wait for answers. And as I was going through this visioning process, one of the things that came up was those very questions lead to some sort of transformation or evolution. Because those questions are, what must I become in order to enable this vision? What must I get rid of? What's the word? Release. What must I release? And what must I embrace? And those are the questions that, okay, I want to make a difference, either in my life or in the world. What must I become? What must I release? What must I embrace? Now, I've got to confess that I did not learn that Saturday was Earth Day until Friday night, Earth Eve. And I had really already had a message in mind, all the different parts of it. And so Friday night I said, well, I'm just not going to address Earth Day at all. And then Saturday morning came, and somehow Spirit said, oh, you think so. So I had to make some changes. I had to embrace the idea that Earth Day would be part of this message. I had to release some other parts of the message that I had intended to give today. That was the changes that I had to make. And Saturday morning, I let Kathy know, hey, I'm going to be doing a lot more work on this message than I intended to do, because I thought I already had most of it done. And Kathy was very accommodating about that. And so when you make a change, there is a ripple effect. There's, as we learned from ecology, that you change one part of a system and other parts of it shift around to accommodate that, or don't, and then you have to have some other things that you have to deal with. Minor plug for I really don't want to do this, but since it's part of it, for my workshop next month, we'll be addressing that kind of thing that comes up when you do make changes in your life, how the ecology of making changes in your own life. So when you go through these questions, you say, okay, I want to make a difference, I want to be different in some way. Here are some of the traits, the attributes that I have to embrace or release. Here are some of the qualities that I need to embrace. It would be nice to have some sort of a method for doing that. Well, one method I'm aware of was created by this 18th century philosopher and inventor that a lot of personal growth people today will acknowledge as having created this method. The guy's name, some of you may know him, his name was Franklin. Benjamin Franklin was the guy who came up with that. And he describes his method in great detail in his autobiography in chapter 9. In chapter 9 of his autobiography, rather than talking about the events of his life up to a certain point, he talks about his plan for attaining moral perfection. Perfection is a strong word, and he doesn't think that he actually attained it, but he had a plan for it, and he actually came up with a method. He invented what we would now call a spreadsheet, where he thought of these 13, what he would call virtues, traits, attributes, that he wanted to make his own habits. So he had a spreadsheet, 7 columns long for the 7 days of the week, and 13 rows for the 13 virtues that he wanted to cultivate in his life. And what he did was he said he would mark by a little black spot every fault I found upon examination to have been committed respecting that virtue upon that day. So I'm not going to go through all 13 virtues, but 3 of the ones that he wanted to do was tranquility. And for each of those virtues, he would have like a little precept, like little criteria to know whether he was in accord with that virtue. So for tranquility, he said, be not disturbed by trifles or accidents, common or unavoidable. He had another one, order. He said, let all your things have their places and be in their places. Let each part of your busyness, actually, not just your work, let each part of your busyness have its time. Silence is apparently one that he had trouble with, a lot more trouble with. Speak not, but what may benefit others or yourself. Avoid trifling conversation. Is it kind and true and needed? So if, let's say, on Tuesday he find that he was just engaging in small talk because he liked to, and he did like 3 times on Tuesday, on the Tuesday column, in the row for silence, he would make 3 black marks. You say, huh? Now he would each week concentrate on one virtue. So he didn't try to do all of it at once. He would concentrate on one virtue, but he would note what was going on with all of them. But his goal for, let's say, the first week was to have a clean slate for the first row, and just to note what was going on with the others. Now, what we know in psychology today, I would say if you're going to adopt that method, and I would encourage you to, and I'd also encourage you to read at least that part of the autobiography, chapter 9. It's available, you know, it's way out of copyright, you can get it online. I would encourage you to make a slight change, and that is to, in addition to having a black mark for when you were, as he says, at fault, respecting, didn't measure up to, you know, did something that was not in accord with that virtue, to have like some other mark where you notice, oh, hey, something that was trifling came up and I wasn't disturbed by it, as I have been in the past. To make some mark, you know, it could be checks and crosses, it could be frowny face and smiley faces, but something that would let you know, okay, I did a good job on this, rather than to have just a clean slate for that virtue, to have a bunch of, you know, nice marks for it. So I would encourage people to do that. And so, I really don't have a lot more to say about being the change. It's being the difference. It's having these methods. So you have first of all, you have some difference that you want to have in your life, in the way you are, or in the way the world is. You have a way to find out what attributes, what traits you need to cultivate, and which ones you need to eliminate. And so you have a method for cultivating those traits and eliminating the other ones. And so it is.